defense spending announcements, while the Prime Minister said before leaving he wants to deepen connections with our allies here in Europe.
Canada's
Especially with Europe. Canada's energy and critical minerals are top of the pitch list. The natural resources and industry ministers will be here for parts of the trip as the Prime Minister meets with business leaders in addition to
President Donald Trump once again sits at the center of North America's economic storm. In 2025, his signature tool is the same as before: tariffs. Higher import duties have become his weapon to pressure trading partners and reshape global commerce. But this time, Canada is on the front line. Prime Minister Mark Carney just made a surprising move that could change the balance of this trade fight. Tonight, we break down Trump's gamble, Carney's counterstep, and what it means for both economies. Trump's tariff gamble. From the first days of his second term, Trump has leaned on tariffs more than any other policy. He has claimed the authority to raise duties up to 50%, and he has used that threat repeatedly. For Trump, tariffs serve two purposes. First, they punish countries he says take advantage of America's market. Second, they create bargaining power, forcing others to negotiate on U.S. terms. But tariffs also create real costs at home. American companies face higher expenses, supply chains are disrupted, and consumers feel it at the checkout counter. Economists warn that constant changes make planning difficult for businesses. Still, Trump sees tariffs as the quickest way to get results, even if they create turbulence. Carney's surprise gesture. Canada has spent months retaliating against U.S. tariffs. But this week, Prime Minister Carney dropped those countermeasures on goods covered under the USMCA Trade Pact, effective September 1st. For Canadian small businesses, half of which import from the United States, the relief is immediate. Shops can lower their prices and consumers could see some costs come down after a tough summer. But Carney's move has sparked debate at home. Business groups applaud him for easing pressure on households, yet Canada's largest labor union, Unifor, says lifting tariffs hands Trump an easy win and weakens Canada's position in ongoing talks. Carney defends the decision, saying he spoke directly with Trump and secured an agreement to speed up negotiations. But crucially, no timeline has been set. Trump's advantage, Carney's diversification. This is where the contrast sharpens. Trump wants to show that tariffs force results. With Canada removing its countermeasures, he can claim victory. Keeping negotiations vague lets him maintain maximum flexibility. Carney, however, is playing a wider game. Almost immediately after announcing the tariff change, he flew to Europe. His stops in Germany, Poland, and Latvia highlight a clear agenda: pitch Canadian energy and minerals to new partners and strengthen defense ties through NATO. This is Canada's hedge. By easing trade tensions with the U.S., Carney buys breathing space at home. But by diversifying abroad, he signals that Canada won't remain dependent on Washington. It is a calculated step back on one front, combined with a push forward on another: economic fallout and ongoing uncertainty. In the short term, Canadians will welcome the change. Lower import costs mean more competitive businesses and some relief for consumers. Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne promises that October's budget will address the wider fallout from U.S. tariffs with what he calls an ambitious and rigorous plan. But uncertainty still looms. Trump has not committed to when or how new talks will unfold. If discussions stall, he can raise duties again, possibly hitting autos, semiconductors, or pharmaceuticals next. That unpredictability is what worries both investors and households. For Canada, the pressure is doubled. Beyond Trump's tariffs, China is also blocking Canadian canola, a vital crop for prairie farmers. This leaves Ottawa scrambling to find new buyers in Europe and elsewhere. Without success, Canada risks being squeezed from two directions: American pressure in the South and Chinese restrictions across the Pacific. Strategic stakes. The Trump-Carney dynamic is more than a trade dispute. It is a clash of strategies. Trump's strategy is blunt: use tariffs as leverage, keep opponents off balance, and force them to bend. Carney's strategy is layered: ease pressure at home with a peace gesture, but simultaneously build new alliances abroad to reduce dependence on the U.S. Both approaches carry risks. Trump's unpredictability can scare off investment and drive up costs for Americans. Carney's outreach to Europe takes time, and Canada still relies heavily on the U.S. market. But the long-term stakes are clear. If Carney succeeds in diversifying, Canada could gain more freedom. If he fails, Trump's hand grows stronger. Right now, Trump holds the immediate advantage. Canada has blinked first by removing tariffs, while Washington keeps its duties intact. For Trump, that is proof his tactics work. But Carney is writing a different playbook, one that aims to slowly shift Canada's economic future toward Europe and other partners. Whether that gamble pays off remains to be seen. The only certainty is uncertainty. Businesses are caught in the middle, consumers feel the squeeze, and both leaders are betting their credibility on very different paths. So the question remains, is Trump tightening America's grip on its northern neighbor, or is Carney quietly building Canada's escape route? The answer will shape not only U.S.-Canada relations, but the future of North America's economy.
He now wants to be very good to Canada.
He's removing his retaliatory tariffs, which I thought was nice, and we're going to have another call soon. Yeah, we had a very good call.
Has mysteriously gone missing.
Carney also said the renegotiation of CUSMA could take as long as 18 months to work out.
Donald Trump has put tariffs back at the center of global politics. His latest move targets Canada, and it's already changing the balance of power in North America. Prime Minister Mark Carney insists he is simply matching the U.S. But beneath the surface, Trump is dictating the terms and Canada is left on the defensive. Tonight, we break down Trump's newest trade tactic, Carney's risky counter, and what it means for the future of the Canada-U.S. relationship. Trump's tariff weapon. Since his return to the White House, Trump has relied on tariffs as his main weapon. Steel, aluminum, autos, no sector is safe. The logic is straightforward. Make foreign goods more expensive, then use that pressure to extract concessions. This week, Trump spoke with Carney by phone and announced he would remove some retaliatory tariffs. He told reporters he wants to be very good to Canada. But if you know Trump's style, you know what's happening. He gives up something small while preparing to demand something far bigger in return. Carney's response: matching. The U.S. Carney quickly announced that Canada will also lift certain counter tariffs on American products covered by CUSMA, the North American trade deal. He repeated one word again and again: matching. By using this language, Carney hopes Canadians see his move not as surrender, but as keeping pace with Washington. He even claimed Canada now enjoys the best deal of any country with the United States. But reality tells another story. The U.S. still keeps higher tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum. Canada has lowered some of its defenses, but Washington's pressure points remain. Trump has more leverage. Carney is playing defense. The bigger fight: CUSMA renegotiation. These moves are not the end of the story. They are the opening act. Carney admitted the renegotiation of CUSMA could take up to 18 months, and the outcome will likely look very different. This is where Trump's true strategy lies. By showing goodwill today, he pulls Canada into a much larger negotiation tomorrow. Agriculture, energy exports, pharmaceuticals, all could be on the table. Trump thrives in this environment. He sets the agenda with tariffs, then positions himself as the dealmaker who can provide relief. For Canada, the danger is walking into talks where the U.S. already holds the stronger hand. Carney under pressure at home. Carney's challenge is not only abroad but also at home. Opposition conservatives immediately blasted his move as giving in and climbing down. Ontario Premier Doug Ford went further, saying, if Ottawa cannot secure real relief for businesses, it must hit back hard and deliver direct support. So Carney is squeezed from two sides. Trump is pushing from Washington. Political rivals and provincial leaders are pressing from inside Canada. His matching strategy may buy time, but it does not silence the critics. Economic signals, short-term pain. The trade war is not just politics. It is already visible in the economy. In June, Canada's retail sales rose 1.5% to over $70 billion, with clothing, building materials, and food leading the gains. But the outlook quickly turned negative. Forecasts for July point to a 1% drop, especially in cars and metals, the very sectors most exposed to tariffs. This shows the reality. Tariffs create short-term spikes and sudden slowdowns, leaving businesses and consumers uncertain about the future. Trump understands this pressure. He knows that when Canadian industries start to feel pain, the political cost for Carney rises. That is leverage. Canada's limited options. Carney insists Canada must diversify trade. Next week, he will travel to Germany to explore new partnerships. In the long term, this could reduce dependence on the U.S., but in the short term, the reality is geography. Canada shares a border with America, and that makes the U.S. its largest and most critical customer. Trump knows Canada cannot replace the American market overnight. That dependence is why his tariff strategy works. By keeping pressure on steel and aluminum, he reminds Ottawa who holds the stronger position. Trump in control. So where does the standoff stand today? Trump remains the central actor, using tariffs to drive the agenda. Carney is trying to frame his actions as balanced, but he is reacting, not leading. The real test lies ahead in the renegotiation of CUSMA. That is where the rules of North American trade will be rewritten. Trump calls it strength. Carney calls it balance. But both cannot be true at the same time. For now, Canada is holding position while the U.S. moves forward. The longer this game plays out, the more likely it is that Ottawa will be forced into concessions that reshape trade on Trump's terms. This is not the end of a trade spat. It is the beginning of a long and risky confrontation, one that will test Trump's ability to dominate negotiations and Carney's ability to defend Canada's interests in a battle where the United States holds most of the cards.